friends. Welcome to Flosstube and Variety Show number 68. I'm Emily Williams in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And thanks for joining me this afternoon. This is Friday, January 20th, 2023. I'm really glad to be making another video. I find I love making the videos on a weekly basis because it keeps me accountable. I also notice the camera is shaking. I'm really going to try not to. I don't know what's happened there. I don't know why that is, but sorry. I hope it isn't too disturbing. Wow, it seems to be just me breathing and talking that's making it happen. That's going to be a problem because breathing is an excellent idea. I do recommend it. Sorry. Well, let's see. Let's talk about cross stitch. Again, Flosstube is about cross stitch and things related to embroidery floss. And Variety Show can be just about anything. So we'll discover together what it turns out to be about today. Now I do have something prepared. All right. Eliza Stringer, age 6. This, again, is a small sampler that was provided to the participants in the Great British Sampler Weekend, which is coming up in September of this year. And it was given to us without any colors. It's a reproduction sampler, but the colors were not provided, so we were to choose our own. And so I am making progress. I chose to do it on 46 count Latte linen by somebody with 100.3 Au Ver A Soie silk in 4 colors, red primarily, as you see, pink, green, and tan. And I think I had not finished those flowers and I had not done the verse. Sorry about the crease in this, but I had not started the verse. So I made quite a bit of progress on this last bit. So pleased about that. This is sampler number 193 by 2x2 Stitch Art, who's an Etsy shop, Ukrainian designer. And I'm doing it on 16 count white Aida with DMC color number 777, a dark red. And I did some more up in this area. Not a ton, maybe. But I'm participating in the Facebook group called Semi-Sane Stitchers in a snowball fight where it's just a way to get us to interact with each other and get some stitching done. So you can create a snowball by stitching 300 stitches on a project, before and after pictures. And then you can throw the snowball at somebody, and if you're hit by a snowball, you have to stitch 100 stitches to dry off from being hit by a snowball. So it's fun, and it does create some interesting interactions, and it's a great chance to see a lot of different projects that people are working on. So it's been fun. I've done everything I'm showing you today, I've used for that, at least a little bit. Now I'll show you the holiday countdown stitch along progress. There, I don't have a picture of it because it was a mystery stitch along, and so it's becoming less mysterious. So this is where I am. I think since I last showed this, I ripped out the part that was wrong up here and restitched it and then added some more up in that area. And the other day I was about to move on to the next color. I think I've done through day 16 when I got sidetracked by wanting to do something else. So it's quite nice. It's interesting. From close up, I'm not thrilled with some of the colors, but from a more normal viewing distance, I like it. So that's good. I'll show it to you close up so you can be not thrilled with it too. I mean, I think the thing that's most disturbing is the fact that the lightest tannish colors do not show up against this fabric. which, since the fabric was selected by Roxy Thread Company, who also did the floss, and it was a collaborative selection of floss, but the fabric, it was all part of the same package. It's a little disappointing that there was not more thought given to the threads showing up. Now you may hear some noise in the background because my husband has been out for a walk and I hear him arriving home. And he probably can't hear me because I'm sure he has his earphones on. So he can't hear me and he doesn't know that I'm making a video. So we'll see what happens. Oh, he seems to hear me. He's just waved. So now, as you can guess, I'm going to show you Snippet Tiger Stare. This is a full coverage piece. I did not take it out of the hoop. Sorry, I should have probably. It's this, you know, it's wide. And I'm working from this side, working down in here, moving that way, I think, pretty sure. And, you know, you think that tigers are orange and white and black, but it turns out they are lavender. So I've been working mostly down in this section. Again, I've been inspired to do so in 300 or 100 stitch increments by using this for the snowball fight. But I think I have about 450 or 500 stitches down here since I showed it in maybe November sometime. I have two full coverage pieces going right now, this one and Under the Roof of Blue Ionian Weather. And I have decided that I think I'm going to try to show you one or the other for each video, rather than trying to make enough progress on both of them to make it worth showing. So I have been stitching on Under the Roof, but this week is the tiger one. And then finally, I'll show you Winter Rose Manor. This is by With Thy Needle and Thread, designed by Brenda Gervais. I've admired this, seeing it on Instagram and such, other people's floss tubes, a lot. And so here is my progress, and I don't know if this will help really, but I'll put something behind it. Hold it back, hold it closer. One of the things I think is going to be interesting about working on this is counting between elements. I went ahead and put that medallion in because I was tired of doing the border, and I wanted to get some of the other colors against this very surprisingly dark fabric, just to see how it all was going to look. And I'm still holding to my let's trust the designer idea, because this is all the called for threads and the fabric. And I haven't, you know, I've looked on Instagram some, and the cover itself makes it look as if the fabric is lighter. Although from this, yeah, I think it's fine. I think one of the things that appeals to me about this, and I think I've mentioned this before, is it's a winter picture, as evidenced by the snow down there on the ground. This is snow. And as belied by the big basket of flowers on the roof of the house, because that's where we put our flowers in the winter, isn't it? But there's this tree arrangement of trees, and I think that's supposed to look evergreenish, maybe Christmas tree-ish. So it's a winter scene, and the sky is dark, which is so often true in the winter, that the sky is dark or sort of leaden gray, and the elements that we look at that are on the earth seem lighter than the sky, whereas in the summertime, the sky seems lighter because it's bright and sunny. So that is one of the things that attracted me, and I'm gonna soldier on with this, and I can't make myself not think about how the threads contrast with the fabric or fail to, but I'll try to not mention it every time. So again, this is my progress. I didn't take it out of the hoop because this is it. That little emblem there. I don't know, where I'm sitting in relation to the camera, I cannot tell whether you can see the difference between the stems and the leaves of that little flower thing. It's subtle, so, but yeah, I can't really see it even like this, but it's fine. It'll be fine. And I think it's going to be beautiful. Certainly, judging by what I see on Instagram, other people's finishes, it's going to be beautiful. So that is all I've been working on, and really, I'm pretty pleased with myself. That's quite a lot. I've touched, I think I've actually put stitches into every project I have going. So that's an unusual week. And in addition to that, I've been working on projects for my church and for another organization, and our HOA annual meeting is coming up, so I've been working on things related to that. I'm the secretary of the HOA board, and I have been in the sewing room several afternoons recently. I plan to go up there probably this afternoon, and tomorrow I think, Cindy, I think I'm going over to Cindy's and we're going to sew together on something. Or we'll sew side by side, parallel play on things. So that's fun. Now, what else is going on? Cross-stitch wise, this is the third weekend of the month, which, as you may recall, I decided that on the third weekend of each month I was going to stitch on Christmas stitching. Now you might think that I should work on that holiday countdown stitch along piece, this one, and I will probably, because it's fun and I want to keep making progress and actually complete it soon. 10 more days in this month. Maybe I'll finish it this month. But, so I did day 7, or I'm on day 17, so that means I have 12 days. No, that does not mean that. I think it means I have 9 days left. So 9 days of stitching in 10 days, no, that's not going to happen. So I'll finish it sometime early in February. But back to Christmas stitching, third weekend of the month. My friend Leslie and I have agreed that we're going to start this. The Nativity Scene by Stitchy Princess, who is on Etsy. She's a Ukrainian designer. Last year I did the Winter Foxes design of hers. Cute, you know, nothing earth-shaking, but cute, and it was fun to do. So here, this is Nativity Scene. It's sort of stylized. I think in the description she calls it primitive, but I would call it stylized more than primitive. And interesting palm trees. And I believe that this photograph does not do it justice because it's weirdly lit and there's some things, little baubles and beads or something dropped along here as a decoration, and there seem to be maybe Christmas lights behind it because there seems to be light shining through it, which is a little bit distracting from the pattern itself. So as this gets going, I think it's going to be more impressive than this photograph. So I've pulled the threads for it out of my DMC collection. Some of them are in use already in other projects, so I'll just fetch it out of there when I need it. But the question has been, what fabric am I going to use? Now it's stitched on, according to her pattern, it's stitched on a gray Lugana type fabric. So I could do it on gray. I have a piece of gray 14 count Aida, which would be nice. It'll stitch up to about around 9 inches square on 14 count Aida. But I thought, well, let me look at some other choices, and I have some blues, which I think might be nice. I mean, I think of gray as a neutral background that is supposed to disappear when you're looking at the cross stitch, but I think of blue as something that could be part of the design. And I think blue would be nice for this particular design. So I went poking around in what I have. I have this, which is light blue. I'm not sure how the color is going to do here. It's sort of a medium light blue, but it's 22 count. So I would be using 1 strand of thread. And it's hardanger, meaning that it's a single weave. I mean, it's two threads, but it's as if it were being stitched over one on linen, which means you have to be careful of how you lay your stitches so that they don't slide under the thread. And it's kind of troublesome. I've used hardanger for Salute to Abigail, a Blackbird piece, maybe 2 years ago. And I found it a little irritating. So I'm not sure I'll use that. Well, I found, again, dating from a long time ago, this very pale blue. This is blue. Just to show it in contrast, this is white, and that's a very pale blue. 18 count Aida. Again, this is probably 30 years old. This is plenty big for the project, so that's a possibility. It's so old that it's been finished with fray check around the edge, and I haven't had a bottle of fray check in 30 years, so. Now this is a more contemporary, current piece of pale blue Aida, 18 count, and I keep the light off it. This is kind of the color. It's a nice medium sky blue-ish color. And I have basically a full width, pretty much, of a bolt, and it's about 14 inches wide. And I bought it as an offcut, being sold by Stitching Mommy, who is an Etsy shop and YouTube channel. And she does some patterns of fabric charting. Yeah. Emily, your words. She creates cross-stitch designs, quite a variety of them, including the temperature tree that I did a couple of years ago. That was her design. She has other temperature projects, by the way. She has one this year that's a temperature Quaker, which is quite beautiful. Very tempting. In fact, it would be beautiful just stitched as a Quaker design, either in monochrome or in a selection of colors. It's quite nice, but it's laid out as a Quaker design. That's where I got that fabric, is what that was all about. And then I also have, this is a sort of a robin's egg blue, a little bit lighter maybe than robin's egg blue, pale aqua, you might call it. This is 32 count even weave, and I have a fat quarter of it. I mean, that's quite a bit of fabric. This is, I got it from Fox and Rabbit. I'm a member of their Patreon. I don't know, Patreon is a funny word. I think it's the branding of the support organization that different people join, that their supporters join. But anyway, one of the perks of being a member of Fox and Rabbit's Patreon is having access to fabrics that they dye. They're a fabric and the fabric dyer and chart designer and sampler reproducing couple, Karen and Brenda. They have a YouTube, which is entertaining and interesting. But they did a retreat this past November, maybe, a Mirabilia retreat, and they dyed fabric for it for the retreat participants. So this was one of them, and this was another one. This is a beautiful, almost periwinkle blue. Again, 32 count Lugana. And this is, I mean, I just can't tell you how beautiful it is. It's They dyed it. I mean, Brendan is a dyer, and it's solid. It's not variegated, I would say. I think it's a solid. It's not a fabric that they have actually released. It was made for that retreat, and then they had extras that they offered to their Patreon members, which I took advantage of. So that's those. But right now, I think I'm leaning toward the this medium blue 18 count Aida. So we'll see. I'll show you next week in the video what I end up deciding to do. You'll see, because I'll have made progress. I'll have stitched a little angel or something. I'm not sure where I'm going to start. This border along the bottom, I mean, I tend to start up here, but I suppose I could start down here and sort of build up. I don't know, we'll see. But I think I'm going to use this 18 count Aida, but time will tell. Okay, that is everything about cross stitch. So what I pulled out to talk about in the variety show is another batch of games, and I have tried to group the games that I talk about by, some characteristic that they share in order to make it sensible to bring out games. And the characteristic is not, these are my favorite games, because that would be an impossible. That would be a 3-hour-long video, at least, if I were to share with you all my favorite games. And some of the games that I show you are not games that are good for just any gaming situation. Some of them have some specific applications, which I'm going to talk, and sometime soon I'm going to talk about party games, because that's a very specific situation that when you have a party that you want to, or a group of people that you want to play games with, not just any game will suit that situation. But these games today, the characteristic that makes them in common is that these are tile laying games, meaning games where the game components are pieces that the players lay down on a table that create either a scoring layout or a layout upon which you play, although these are all mostly scoring. So the first one I'm going to show you is called Tantrix. And this is a game that was out of print for a while, and then it was in print. This was originally published by Family Games Incorporated. And since then, it's been picked up by, well, I put in the description box, another game publisher. It was out of print for a while. It was hard to get when I got this. But the idea, I'm going to make a little rattling noise with these components because they are made of that Bakelite material. But the idea is that each piece is a hexagon and it has some lines on it in different colors and not always the same shape. I'm trying to hold this so that, yeah, that's better. And so these two, maybe they look the same, but they're not, because as you see, they're mirror images of each other. And so there's this H shape, and then there's this one, and then there's that one where the corners come in from the outside. I think there might be another shape or two represented in the tiles. And the idea of the game is that when it's your turn, you have to lay a tile down so that it connects correctly with the correct color with a tile that's already laid down, which that's fine. That's easy when there's only a few tiles. But the next tile that goes down has to have a red and a yellow connecting there. So that one is going to be a little more challenging. In fact, of the tiles I picked out, of course, now I'm going to get a little bit fascinated by seeing what I can do here. Yeah, the tiles that I picked out don't work just because of, and that's part of the game, is as the layout gets bigger, there are more places to play tiles, so maybe it gets easier to lay your tiles. But there's rules about how that works, and it's a game for ages 1 to 4, 1 to 4 players, so one player can have fun with these tiles. You can get it in these nice Bakelite, it's called, tiles. You can still get it on the secondary market. I noticed you can get it on eBay and from some used sellers. But it's also available as a newly printed game. I mean, a current edition, but the tiles are cardboard, which again, that's fine. I think the cardboard game components can be very nice. I happen to have this set, which is noisier, but still, that's what that is. Another type of tile laying game, this is called Alhambra. And you see it won the game Spiel des Jahres in 2003. It is, and here's the back, so you can get an idea of what it looks like. So there's a market. So the idea is that each of you in your playing area are building your own city of Alhambra. And you start with a fountain piece, and all of your pieces have to connect to pieces that you've already played. And there's a market that shows the pieces that are available, the buildings that are available, and what they cost. And the currency is in different types of currency. So you have to have the currency in order to buy the tile. And if you don't have currency, you can pick up currency in the exchange. And then later you'll use that currency to buy the tile. And your goals are to have the largest city that's all connected, and the pieces have point values. There's a wall around some pieces that limits where they can be played. And you also get points if at the end of the game your city has the longest contiguous wall and things like that. So it's a family strategy game is what it is. It's not terribly difficult. You can play the game with enjoyment even if you don't play well in terms of scoring, but it's possible to be quite tactical in how you go about it, and so it's quite nice. It's a good game. We've played it. There have been seasons when that's been quite frequently played at our household. And I would say the sweet spot in terms of number of players is probably 3. Because then you're not waiting too long for your turn. There's not too much competition for buildings, but there's some competition. So, and another classic game is Carcassonne. And Carcassonne is, I say classic because it's been around a long time. I wonder if it has a date on this box. This says copyright 2000. This might be first edition of it. I'm not sure, but that's quite a long time ago. And this is a game, again, it's for from 2 to 5 players. You can't play it by yourself. Well, actually, this is definitely not the first edition because it says it includes the river expansion. But this is a game where the pieces are tiles that look like this, that have open area and cities and paths, and you have to lay the tiles and some buildings, like this is a monastery. You have to lay the tiles so that they match the terrain of a neighboring tile. So this tile, here, that's right, hold it by the edge, has a city on 3 sides and grass on 1 side. So you can play this tile, well, you can't actually. You think you could play this tile like that, but you can't because there's no path. So you can play it like this because the cities are joining to each other. So that's sort of the restrictions about how you can lay your tiles, and then you can put your little markers. I think the current name for them is meeples. You know, these little, I mean, we used to call them men. You can put your man, you can put one of your men on one of these things, but that's considered too gender specific or something for today's world. And there are a lot, so therefore we call them meeples instead of people, I guess, meeples. But this is the basic game. There are both expansions that you need a basic game, and then you add the expansion, and there are also just other versions. So this is very similar in terms of the game mechanic and the limitations on how you play tiles, but there's different ways of scoring. This has to do with how many animals there are and how much forest there is or something like that in your area that you've claimed by putting a meeple in it. And then finally, let me get these out of the way because they're blocking my view of myself. There's this game. This is called Aida, and it's by Game Right Games, and its subtitle is The Great Big Game in the Teeny Weeny Tin. And you can see how small this is. This is a great game if you want to have a game with you in your backpack. And it's made up of cards, which are these little square cards that have a shape, a color, and a number of dots on it, or symbols. So here's the triangle that's yellow, and it has 3 things on it. Actually, I think the number is, no, that's right, because here's a cross that's blue that has 3 symbols on it. And the idea is that you are limited in where you can put your pieces on the board because they have to match a piece that they're next to in one of their characteristics, or maybe more than one of their characteristics. And so, oh yes, add cards to a grid, making sure that color, shape, and number are either all the same or all different across the line. So you have to have a table, a surface to play on, but that's the basic idea of the game, and then you score points according to how successful you are in making things match or having a larger number of things that match. Now, these are not all of the tile laying games that I own or that I've played. There are a lot of very good tile laying games. There's more versions of Carcassonne, for example. And there are other games that are sort of along the lines of this Aida idea, not in this form factor though, so cute and small. There are some classic games. For instance, the game, of course, now that I've tried to say it, I can't come up with the name of it. Anyway, I will not promise to link or to put any more information in the description box. Everything I've shown you today is available. Some of it you may have to search for, but it's possible to find it. These games appeal to the kinds of persons who don't want a lot of game components. And you can play them at a fairly simple and quick level. Usually turns don't take a long time. So you don't have to wait a long time for your turn to come up again. And that is, I think, one of the things that keeps some of the people that I play games with less interested in games is having to wait a long time between turns. So some of these games, the sweet spot is maybe 3 people, sometimes 4 people. And part of that is because of the waiting factor. So I would say all of these games, the sweet spot is 3 or 4. Maybe 3 is good. Tantrix can be played as a solo game, and I think this game can too, Aida. You can play it by yourself. It says 2 to 4 players, but you can just draw a card and figure out where it goes. You can play with it, I'll say, by yourself. And I like that kind of game. I sometimes find myself not wanting to do a puzzle or something and just wanting to do something, though. And so playing a solo game is fun. So that is it for games. Now I'll just give one other thing I wanted to show you. All right, 2 other brief things. Thanks for those of you who wished me well for the World Puzzle Federation Sudoku Grand Prix, which was last weekend. I did find a time slot to participate. I enjoyed it. I thought the puzzles were harder maybe than last year's puzzles, but I talked to my son about that, and he said he didn't think that they were, so maybe it's just being rusty. And I completed 2 puzzles and submitted the answers correctly, so I have 42 points out of 600, which is not, I'm reasonably satisfied with that. It would have been nice to have completed 1 more puzzle and had another, 30 points or something. But I didn't, and that's fine. I tried some of the other puzzles. I couldn't really get traction in them, and I didn't stick with it, which maybe if I had been forced to stick with one of those other puzzles that I attempted, I might have completed it in the time that I had remaining. But that's all right. I'm satisfied. My goals for the the Grand Prix on the monthly basis is to not be last in the world and to enjoy myself, to complete 2 or 3 puzzles at least. And I'm not last in the world, and I'm not last in the US. Now, my son participated also, and he completed 4 puzzles, which is maybe a puzzle or 2 less than he normally would, but he didn't think that they were harder. So there you go. So that is all for today. Thank you so much for joining me. I love comments and all the things that YouTube likes. Of course I like, because I'm in YouTube's environment, so things that you do that they like mean that my videos will possibly be seen by more people or recommended to people who watch similar videos. I think that at one point I got recommended as something you might like to watch because you watched a particular Flosstube video, and that just ballooned my viewership, which is fun. I do this for fun. I don't do it because I get anything out of it other than fun and the slight bit of accountability that posting a video every week creates in my life. And I have enjoyed very much the comments and the conversations that I've had with some of you through the comment section. That's really great. And a few of my family members, at least one, is a subscriber, and some of my local friends watch, and some of my distant friends watch, so that's fun as well. I imagine that even though I'm here in my dining room, family room, talking to myself, I actually imagine that I'm talking to you. So thanks for being there on the other side of the camera. So that's it. Have a great weekend and week, and many blessings to you, friends.